At the beginning of the story, Fanlin, the rich and powerful daughter of the Song Corporation, was all over the hot search trends. Known as the most difficult, wealthy, and elusive daughter to pursue, her family's fortune was worth a staggering $100 billion. Despite this, no one had ever successfully married her. However, this afternoon, a shocking event occurred. She publicly kissed someone, and the news spread like wildfire. Song Fanlin had graduated from a prestigious medical school. As the eldest daughter of the powerful Song family, she seemed untouchable. Meanwhile, a new face emerged: Si Mingjing, an alien girl who had just returned to Earth. She appeared bright and full of promise, yet one of the most liked online comments about her reads simply, "New knowledge." The two women, as it turns out, were actually relatives. The story then shifts to a dark and desperate scene at Blue Prison Star. In one of the cold, harsh blue prison zones, Si Mingjing was clutching her chest in pain, her breath shallow and her body trembling. She repeatedly called out for her mother, her voice filled with agony. Si Mingjing's mind flashed back to when she was first thrown into prison. She had been dragged in by officers, her hands shackled. Desperately, she had cried out, "Let me go. I'm innocent. I didn't kill her." But the officers only sneered. "With evidence like that, you still dare to argue?" Despite her protests, Si Mingjing was forced to face the reality of her situation. "I'm innocent," she shouted again, her voice breaking. "I didn't kill her. It wasn't me." She clutched the cold iron bars of her cell, trying to hold on to her truth. But standing before her was Song Fiancé La, her eyes filled with hatred. "You're guilty," Song Fiancé La insisted, her voice unwavering. "I saw everything. You killed her." No matter how much Si Mingjing begged and pleaded, Song Fiancé La refused to listen. "Don't try to deny it. With all the evidence against you, how could you still pretend?" She shook her head in disbelief. Is she really still lying? Doesn't her conscience bother her? The story broke on social media, sending shockwaves across the world. Song Fiancé La's brother-in-law confirmed the truth: the rich daughter of freedom, Si Mingjing, had killed someone. The family's vast fortune, worth $100 billion, was now in the hands of Togra, who became an overnight billionaire. Si Mingjing, sentenced to death while still in prison, gave birth to a baby girl before her tragic end. In prison, a white-haired girl hurried to the side of the blue-haired woman who had been coughing violently. The little girl, with tears in her eyes, grabbed the arm of an officer. "Uncle, my mother is sick. Please take her to the hospital." But the officer coldly shook her off. "Unlucky. If she dies, she dies. Just don't make a mess." The young girl was devastated, biting her lip and unable to fight back, her cries of helplessness echoing in the cold, stone halls. "Mom, don't worry. This time, we'll get you out of here. We'll clear all the injustice, and everything that belongs to you, we will make sure they pay for it." The story then shifts to a bustling hospital in Lam Tin, where the whole town was abuzz. The new hot topic on the search was none other than Si Mingjing's daughter. People whispered about her looks, commenting on how beautiful she was, but the shadow of her mother's crime loomed over her. She just got out of prison, and she's already showing off? And what was she doing in Lam Tin? As Si Mingjing's daughter left the clinic, she thought about the hassle of getting a health certificate after her release. Suddenly, she overheard a voice: "Sir, the doctor said his leg needs to be amputated to prevent further complications." A woman on the other side cried out in distress. The child had a type C tibia fracture, and without amputation, the consequences could be severe. But Si Mingjing's daughter couldn't help but think that Lam Tin's medical standards were lower than she expected. "There's no need for amputation. If treated on time, it won't be life-threatening." It was then that she noticed something odd about the boy being treated. He had horns on his head, and she realized they were of the same species. The boy noticed her too, startled by the realization. It seemed only Samer could save the child's leg, but Samer coldly responded that unless the child's father married Song Fiancé Lan, there was no need to discuss it. The mention of Song Fiancé Lan's name struck a nerve. Si Mingjing's daughter was suddenly filled with understanding. "It's them again. The realization dawned on her, this wasn't just a medical issue, it was all part of their plan. The boy sat quietly beside his grandmother, trying to comfort her despite the heavy situation. "Grandma, try not to cry. If it needs to be cut off, then cut it off. Little Master isn't afraid at all." "Really, if I lie to people, I won't ever get married," he said, trying to reassure her with a brave smile. His grandmother stood up, wiping away her tears. "Yen, wait here for a moment," she said, heading inside to speak with the doctor. The boy obediently nodded, his worry clearly etched on his face. "Yes, Grandma, don't worry," he replied, though his eyes remained glued to the door as he anxiously watched her go inside. The fear gnawed at him, but he hid it behind a brave front, knowing that his grandmother was already so fragile. As he sat there, Si Mingjing, a mysterious woman who had been quietly observing, called out to him with a teasing tone. "Hey, little boy," she said, her voice light and playful. "It seems your whole face is covered in tears. Aren't you a real man? Why are you crying?" The boy's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Get out. Peeing out doesn't bother me, and I'm not crying," he snapped back, his voice shaking with frustration. Si Mingjing chuckled, unbothered. "Oh, so, children want to cry, but they won't show it? What's the point of trying to be brave?" she teased further. The boy, clearly upset, huffed. You don't understand anything. I'm crying because..." He paused, the weight of his emotions taking over. "Auntie is old. If I cry too loudly, she can't handle it, and I want to protect Dad's happiness." Si Mingjing looked at the boy's worried expression, then glanced toward the clinic. "So, you're trying to keep your aunt from worrying? And you don't want to burden your father," she mused, her voice softening for a moment. "That's admirable, little boy." The boy nodded quietly, his eyes downcast. "Yes, that's right. Mom's coming back. Dad says she'll come back, and everything will be fine. She'll fix everything." Si Mingjing, after listening to his story, sat down next to him. "Does it hurt?" she asked softly. The boy stiffened, his voice defensive. "What? Does it hurt? Besides, who are you to ask me? If you try to kidnap me, I'll warn you now, this leg is nothing worth stealing." Si Mingjing smirked. "Oh, a little leg amputation and you're already acting like you're worth something? If I decided to sell you, it's not like you'd fetch a high price." The boy, now panicked, fumbled in his words. You're a bad person. If you dare to hurt me, my father will never forgive you." Si Mingjing raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Really? Your father, the one who's being forced into marriage? The one about to have a new stepmother?" She patted his head mockingly. "How pitiful. It's better to be tricked and sold by me than to face that fate." The boy recoiled in shock, unable to respond, but Si Mingjing's casual taunts were interrupted when she suddenly hit him on his injured leg. "Ah!" The boy cried out, his scream echoing through the hospital. "It hurts, it hurts. Help, it hurts." Within seconds, several bodyguards rushed over, their faces filled with concern. "Young master, what happened? Are you all right?" The boy, still clutching his leg, looked around in distress. "Beat this bad woman to death," he yelled, pointing toward where Si Mingjing had been. But when the bodyguards turned, they saw no one. Confused, they looked back at the boy. "Young master, where did she go?" The boy jumped off his chair, his pain forgotten as he frantically searched. "Where did she go?" The bodyguards, still in shock, glanced at the boy's leg. To their astonishment, the injury had healed, and even the dragon horns on his head had vanished. The boy smiled, astonished. "My little horn doesn't hurt anymore. The dragon horn, it retracted. It's healed." Just as the boy was celebrating, his great-grandmother rushed out, worry written on her face. "What happened? Who healed my beloved grandchild?" she asked, hugging him tightly. "Is your leg really cured?" The boy quickly explained the mysterious event. "It was that ugly woman. She healed me." The bodyguards looked at each other, perplexed. "Ugly woman," one of them repeated. "It sounds like she was a bone-setting expert, but we didn't see anyone leave after healing the young master." "It must have been her. We thought it might be song filing." The boy scowled, shaking his head vehemently. "It wasn't her." Then, as the bodyguards discussed the strange event, the boy looked up, his eyes wide with realization. "Great-grandmother, look, it's her," he exclaimed, pointing at the TV screen. The news was broadcast, and the headline read, "A rich girl from a 100 billion family. No one could marry her. The alien girl just returned to Earth. She's bright," but the news went on to talk about her background, calling her the daughter of a murderer, and how she had grown up in Blue Prison Star. They dismissed her as a useless woman, despite her wealth. "That's her," the boy said confidently, grinning. "She's the one who healed me." The bodyguards, now startled, asked, "Are you sure? This is Si Mingjing, the one who just left Blue Prison Star?" The boy, full of conviction, nodded. "Yes, it's her. She's mine now. She saved me, after all. No one else can have her." The bodyguards were speechless. "Young master, since when did she become yours?" The boy laughed confidently. "I'll repay her for saving me, and what better way than with my life? The grandmother, still skeptical, patted his head. Don't talk nonsense. You're too young to be thinking of marriage. But the boy, smiling brightly, replied, if you can't, then we'll use father's name. At the bustling Central Avenue of Launching, on Broadcast Street, an unexpected announcement was made. The voice of the anchor filled the airwaves. This is Launching TV. Welcome to today's broadcast. We have some shocking news for everyone. Imawaha, Si Mingjing, sitting in the comfort of her room, paused as she heard the words. A top-level wealthy individual has just called the TV station to announce that he wants to marry Si Mingjing. What's even more surprising is that the man he's referring to is the legendary figure that Song fiancé Lan has been pursuing for years, Mo. Si Mingjing, taken aback, muttered to herself, marry me? And who is this Imawaha? Meanwhile, inside a grand mansion, an elderly man's curses echoed through the halls. You three useless brats. I want you to marry Ming, he yelled, his face red with anger. Look at what's being said online. The little turtle girl will live her life alone. You made her a laughingstock. Young Master Su, second Master Su, and third Master Su sat there, enduring the verbal onslaught. Do you have no conscience? The old man continued. Young Master Su, clearly fed up, shot back, Grandpa, even if you scold me to death or beat me, I will not marry that useless. Young Master Su added, if you force me to marry her, don't blame me for trampling her underfoot and making her life miserable. Third Master Su, just as annoyed, chimed in, being her big brother is one thing, but being her husband, that's a dream. The old man was furious. You heartless wolves, one of you must marry her, or you'll leave this house with nothing. Young Master Su was speechless. It can't be that bad. Second Master Su, now panicking, exclaimed, Grandpa, are we really your biological grandchildren? Even third Master Su couldn't believe it. But didn't Imawaha openly say he wanted to marry Si Mingjing? As Si Mingjing was listening to the commotion, she opened the door, still busy with her nails. Back then, if it weren't for Mingjing's grandfather helping me through tough times, how could we have the wealth and glory we have today? You all must arrange a marriage for her, she mused aloud. Thinking to herself, Si Mingjing realized how much Grandpa Su had done for her. He spent so much money to bring me back to Lantin. Now, he's going this far for me. And as for the Song family, humiliating my mother and taking billions in inheritance, if I were to return, the Song family would never see good days again. She called out to Grandpa Su, don't force them. I won't marry anyone. I don't need them to marry me. I can be independent. Just as she finished speaking, a loud voice interrupted her. Ugly woman. Si Mingjing spun around in shock. The boy she had helped earlier was charging toward her. I finally found you. Didn't you say you wanted to corner me? Why didn't you? He stopped abruptly and added, starting today, you are my little master's most favored woman. Si Mingjing was confused. What the hell is a most favored woman? Just then, his great-grandmother entered the scene, laughing. Old Su, long time no see. Grandpa Su, startled, stood up. Hello, Grandma, what's going on? She handed over a business card. We followed the address provided by the marriage TV station and found ourselves here at the Su family's residence, she explained. Grandpa Su, now shocked, responded, Old lady, is it true that your grandson in the Milky Way wants to marry two men can? The boy, still full of confidence, answered for himself, not in my father's name, but in my young master's name. If my young master were old enough to marry, he wouldn't bother using his father's name. Si Mingjing patted his head, her voice tinged with amusement. It's just a small matter. I saved this child because of fate. As for the marriage, he interrupted, fate means there's a marriage. Si Mingjing rolled her eyes inwardly, realizing that this was just a ploy to disrupt Song fiancé Lan's plans. She remembered that Song R, using the marriage as leverage, had wanted to force Little White's father to marry Song fiancé Lan. She saw an opportunity. If she could make a ruckus, she could ruin Songger's human face. At that moment, someone else entered the room, calling her name, Miss Si Ming. Grandma tried to put on a smile. My little white is the most tolerant. Seeing her life-saving benefactor cursed online like this, I can't stand it. Miss Si, why don't you temporarily borrow little white's father's reputation? Wait for everything to blow over, and then we can claim our personalities don't match, allowing you to save face. Si Mingjing's expression hardened. My grandfather wouldn't accept that. How could he? Si Mingjing is my future granddaughter-in-law. She's about to marry my the boy piped up again, what granddaughter-in-law? She's my wife. Grandpa Su was too stunned to respond. A brat like you hasn't even grown enough hair yet. Do you know what a wife is? The boy proudly answered, of course I know. My dad once said, a wife is a woman a man wants to protect for his whole life. This little master will protect her for his whole life. Si Mingjing couldn't help but chuckle. You see, children are children. She teased the little boy's cheeks. I think I can wait for you to slowly grow up, she said with a smile. Looking at the two of them giggling, Grandpa Su sighed inwardly. Grandma Su was equally speechless. Old Su, forget it. Si Mingjing secretly thought, this child is really easy to coax. I can use him to escape Grandpa Su's matchmaking while also ruining Songir's plans. Imaoha, with all his wealth and power, he's the man Song fiancé Lan has been dreaming of marrying. If Songar knew, wouldn't she be so angry that she would die? A while later, at work, a childish voice rang out on the phone. Dad, I have good news to tell you. Although you don't have a wife, you're going to have a daughter-in-law soon. I'll bring your daughter-in-law to meet you right away. Mona frowned. Daughter-in-law? At that moment, another person brought coffee. Big brother, don't make that stinky face anymore. Shabai borrowed your name. The matter of wanting to marry Si Mingjing has already caused a stir on the internet. You can't make this face. In my opinion, Si Mingjing is not bad at all. It's not impossible. Imiha was angry. He held his mouth. My sister-in-law is not dead yet. Where do you put me like this? Where do you put my sister-in-law? He dodged. Big brother, it's been 5 years. Accept reality. Mona hissed. You don't understand anything. He frowned, affirming that she was not dead. Memories from the past came flooding back. The girl gave the egg to Maknaha. How? Is this the son I gave birth to for you? She looked at that tearful face, waiting for him to grow up. It was the day you returned. Mocha painfully recalled. The younger brother just shrugged his shoulders, indifferent. But he had thought that if his sister-in-law didn't die, why did she have to abandon her husband and child, leaving him and Shabai alone and desolate, leaning on each other? Mona still insisted that she wasn't dead. She would come back. She had said it before. The younger brother was bewildered. He had said something. You're weak. She had said it before. When Xiaobai grew up, it was the day she returned. Now Xiaobai was 4.5 years old. It wouldn't be long before she returned to their side. He shrugged his shoulders. His second brother still believed it. Sister-in-law was clearly afraid that he would commit suicide, so it just so happened that there would be a scandal with Miss C. Maybe sister-in-law would see it and get angry and come find him to settle the score. Mocha angrily kicked him. Get lost. If he wanted to find her, he wouldn't provoke her with this kind of thing. Suddenly, he coughed violently. Maknaha coughed out a handful of blood. He kept coughing up blood. The younger brother was shocked. Big brother, don't be angry. I'm the bastard. I shouldn't have made you relapse. At this moment, Teach hurriedly ran over. Oh. He was happy. Tue brought his father's daughter-in-law home. Maknaha was a little speechless. Then that snake-like figure suddenly appeared before his eyes. A snake-like figure with familiar white hair. Back. Nan Ha was a little stunned. She looked at that man. He is Maknaha, the person Tong fiancé Lan liked was him. Maknaha coughed violently. In his mind, he was certain, no, it wasn't her. He kept coughing, making his son worried. His younger brother urgently called the ambulance.